Actually, one of the reasons that we wanted to make this video, because this is something that we wholeheartedly promote, and we definitely encourage you guys out there to go and push this in your creative process. Sometimes it feels like, and I have experienced this before, that tone of voice very much comes secondary, and the branding process seems to be very visual. And for me, and I think we also definitely agree on this, this is the wrong way. What's good, everybody, and welcome back to Hyperfocused. Today we are joined by Alex.
What's up?
And we are going to be taking a deep dive into a Hyperfocus favorite, which is TOV, tone of voice. So together, today, we are going to unravel the mysteries of what this actually means. You may have often heard it discussed in projects, and sometimes it kind of ends up being swept under the carpet and not elevated and celebrated like it should. So we actually, in this video, going to look at a few examples and kind of, get to grips and really kind of explain to you how important tone of voice is and how to actually use it, and talk about some best examples. So without further ado, we would like to jump straight in, but I'd first like to hand it over to Alex for him to actually introduce himself and say who you are, how we know each other, and why you are here.
All right. Hello, everybody. Thanks for having me. I'm Alex. I'm a brand strategist. I originally come from the copywriting field, and then with the time, I'm just worked more and more on brand naming jobs, and then figured out for myself it's like, for me, the more fun thing to do, like building a brand and giving it a voice, and that's exactly what we're gonna talk about. And I'm hyped to work with you guys. And Paul and I, we met while bouldering, climbing up those walls, huh?
Yeah, that's true. Maybe that's for another video. Maybe we'll make a video all about our climbing experiences. Anyway, so let's jump straight in. Would you like to actually kind of explain what tone of voice actually is?
Tone of voice, that's actually the voice of the brand. So it's the communication part, everything what has to do with communications, the inner communications inside the brand and also outside the brand. Every written word, every radio jiggle you hear, every commercial you see, everything is the tone of voice, the way the brand appears to the outside.
And I think what's super important as well is that when you communicate with a branded experience, there are many different touch points to actually come into contact with the message that the brand is trying to tell you or express or have you experience. And the tone of voice often is kind of seen as being a little bit secondary. It's kind of not seen as much in the creative process, but it is the red line. It's really part of one of the foundations that helps to hold an entire brand experience together, because without that trust, without that continuity, you can lose your audience. You can lose, as I said before, the trust.
Exactly. It's like it's the glue that sticks all together.
Yeah.
It's pretty much also like the logo is like something that constantly repeats yourself. So you only hear part of it, and you know exactly who you're talking to, what brand you're talking to, if it's done right. So if you do it right, you start by giving, like, tone of voice pretty much is like giving the character of the brand an own unique language. It's like you and me, like everyone has a different way to speak and communicate with others, and that's actually something you see in advertising coming up more and more, like brands actually becoming a persona and talking to the customers face to face as a person and not as a brand anymore.
And I think this is actually one of the reasons that we wanted to make this video, because this is something that we wholeheartedly promote, and we definitely encourage you guys out there to go and push this in your creative process. Sometimes it feels like, and I have experienced this before, that tone of voice very much comes secondary, and the branding process seems to be very visual. And for me, and I think we also definitely agree on this, this is the wrong way. Before you start on any crazy visual adventure, then make sure that you have your tone of voice locked down. Make sure you know the character, the personality of the experience of the brand that you're about to build, to then build a layer on top and to build a complement with the design.
Yeah, it's like if you start building a brand, like the first step you do is like building a character, brand persona. And if you have this character, then in best case scenario, you have the visual, the designer, and the strategist and copywriter together, giving that a look and a feel and a tone which are like one.
Yeah.
So it's not like you build a visualization and then someone comes in and said, okay, if it looked like that and it has to speak like this. It's coming from the character of the brand.
Yeah, cool. Most definitely. And you have actually brought some best practices, some examples from the past, from the present, that we're actually going to take a little bit of a deeper dive into and see what these guys did outstandingly well in their communication. So please, let's begin. Let's start with the first best practice that you brought along to talk to us.
Well, the first one I want to talk about is like probably the one everyone comes up with when they think about a good case for tone of voice, and it's the smoothie company Innocent.
Absolute classic.
Yes, they did it absolutely right, because they did it everything from the beginning. They built this character and really defining what are the core values of the brand. And this is like the innocent, calm, nature-loving culture they're coming from. And then they broke this down also in the visual and the design and also in the language. It's like everything they do and every detail, they just, you read something, you hear something, you don't even have to hear the name Innocent, you already know the brand.
Yeah, and I think, you know, we say classic, and actually we're very familiar these days with seeing this kind of message and this kind of very flamboyant expression of personality in packaging design and in brands. We all know Oatley, for example, who it seems like, you know, I mean, they're everywhere, and maybe for the new kind of intelligent shopper, I don't know, or conscious shopper, this is something that's quite new, but it was Innocent who actually really paved the way. And Oatley, I wouldn't say, I mean, they're not exactly copycats, but they're definitely taking influence from the path that Innocent set all those years ago.
Yeah, it's this red line storytelling approach, like everyone noticing every successful company is going for a storyline.
Yeah.
It's just not enough anymore to advertise sales, deals, or just products. There always have to be a story behind it, and a story can't best be told by someone you trust and you see and you hear and you're like, okay, I know that guy, I trust that guy.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so what's the second one that you have for us?
The second one I got is MailChimp.
Okay. Also, I suppose kind of a modern classic. I mean, they've been around for a long time, but it's definitely, if you've seen any of the videos on this channel, it is definitely a Hyperfocused classic. This has been referred to quite a few times, but I'd love to see, because you are the copywriter, you are the guy with the knowledge when it comes to this. What do you think about MailChimp?
MailChimp also managed from the way they look, like this fresh, young, funny, start-up-ish approach that they're doing, and then giving the voice also. They managed to, from the strategic side, you see them and it looks super juvenile and young, but on the other hand, super professional as well. It's like you look at them, it's like it's your older brother talking to you in a cool way, and you trust him because he's your older brother and you know what he's doing. So that's the tone of voice they reach out, and also in the visuals and the branding you see it as well. Okay, number 3 is Old Spice, also legendary rebranding.
Absolutely. I think if you've spent any time in any advertising agencies, especially around in Germany, which both of us have, you will hear this being referred to constantly.
Quite a lot, yeah.
Even, I think maybe even today, I don't know. But there was definitely a time when Old Spice run supreme, I would say.
Yeah, that was because they managed to re-own what they were standing for with a fresh approach. Like Old Spice, it's a manly old man brand. Mm-hmm. And then when they did the strategic part on the rebranding, they didn't just say, okay, what's hip now? What shall we do? What's the next big thing to do? They actually stayed true to their core values and said, like, we are a purely masculine brand. Old Spice, even the name itself sounds old. But how can we stay true to ourselves and make it like modern and fresh? And then they did it a lot of that's where like that's a lot of tone of voice coming in, because like they did a lot of humor. They like kind of laughed about themselves and had like very controversial headlines, and also like playing this masculine part like to the stretch.
So we're gonna we'll leave the links in the comments below and in the notes as well, so you can check some of these out. But if you've had any experiences with these brands that you want to open up the conversation below with, please do. Or if there's anything that you think we should really have had in our list of 3, then yeah, open up that conversation and we will engage and answer those questions. And the next thing, actually, it kind of really leads on really nicely, is why do we actually need this? Why do brands need to interact with their consumers? Is it really, honestly, is it really that important?
It is now. It's getting more and more, because like if you go to the supermarket, like stick with Old Spice for instance, you go to a supermarket and you have like 50, 60 brands selling you.
Yeah, all screaming.
Yeah,
for
screaming for
attention.
attention. So
I mean, it's just a noise, isn't it? It's just a sea of absolute.
So who
noise.
you turn to?
Yeah.
You always turn to the one you know and you trust,
absolutely.
and you kind of have a connection with. Sometimes the connection is I know it from my youth, or I like the way they look, or I like the way they smell, or I read some good tests about it. That defines like which story the brand tells. But that all is tone of voice. Which story you want to tell to your customer, and how you stick to it on every level in the communication. Mm-hmm. For example, like brands who are switching the communication, like we say like we are cheap here, bestie there, we are super premium here, just to target different target groups. at one point, like, they lose everyone because no one believes them anymore.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, how do you actually do this? I mean, how do you, I mean, maybe you're asking yourself as well, like, this sounds really, really cool and I want to actually make this happen. How do you kind of go about making this a priority? How do you recognize this in the design process? How do you kind of bring this forward as being something that's super important to build brands?
Well, you start off like doing a right tone of voice, how I said, is always with the design team, with the entire team in the process, in the strategy part, like really thinking about not the single assets and the single disciplines, but taking the view from the brand. Who am I as a brand? What is my character? So personalizing a brand and then thinking about, if I'm sticking with Old Spice, if I'm masculine, manly, how do I have to look? How do I have to speak? And what do I want to say? So it all develops from this brand character you're building. That's the first step, and that's why it's always a teamwork. Like, you can't just, there's a big difference between tone of voice and creative copywriting. Like, tone of voice is just the reflection of the brand character. Creative copywriting is just like how good and how creative and how excellent you write the text, what is actually said or written in the end. But before that, tone of voice is the reflection of the character.
Cool. Well, I mean, we have covered quite a lot today. I hope that explains and gives you like a deeper dive into understanding really kind of the nuances and the importance of tone of voice. And if you are in a project at the moment, or you're about to start, or you have just heard the word tone of voice being thrown around, now I hope with a little bit of this insight that you can actually go out there and make it important, understand it, and actually bring that up in the creative process.
Yeah, and
so I would
to help on that, like the if you want to give it a good tone of voice, like there's things you have really to consider first, like the conclusion of all here, like the learnings is like, first, build a good and solid brand character, define like 2 or max 3 core values of the character, what is really important for the brand, and then you start writing.
Cool, fantastic. All right, well, I would like to say thank you, Alex.
Thank you.
You may have seen Alex already in some of the videos. He's kind of popping up here and there. Alex is going to be part of this story. He's going to be a bit more of an integral part. So we have got many things that we're going to be talking about, and you're probably going to see him on Instagram and on some of our future videos. So yeah, it's great to have you on board. And as always, don't forget to subscribe, like this video if you liked it. It helps us to grow the channel. And we will see you in the next one. Peace.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah.
Why not? Thank you for your time.